Let's talk now to Peter Morris, who's Chief Economist at Ascend by Cirium. Thanks very much indeed for being with us on the show, Peter. So this was the worst year in history for Heathrow last year. Just how bad was it?
Well, I think that because of this almost three-level hurricane that's hit the aviation industry, at one level you've got all the health issues, at the other level you've got the individual governments taking decisions about who can and can't travel and what the conditions attached are. And with 100 plus countries taking those decisions, it's clearly going to be difficult for passengers to understand, what do I do? How do I do it? And then finally, the corporate sector that pays a disproportionate amount for travel has really been cut savagely back because of individual companies concerned about their staff and issues like conferences and exhibitions just not being feasible. So it's faced all those three factors coming together. And what we're looking now is at the kind of rebuilding, and people are talking about perhaps 2024, 2025 before you get back to the level of 2019. But I think the thing is that, as you said earlier, the issue of leisure traffic, people like myself that have been locked indoors for 2 years or whatever, are desperate to get out there. But we're not the people that pay top dollar to keep the industry going.
Well, as you say, people desperate to go on holiday, that likely to be more popular this year. But when it comes to corporate travel, is that really going to come back?
That's a good question. I mean, I think there's some areas where there's simply no substitute for being there. If you think of the person who's sitting in their office in Kuala Lumpur and somebody knocks on the door and wants to talk to them, or somebody else wants to make a phone call at a difficult hour of the day, who are you going to deal with? But nonetheless, things like exhibitions and conferences that are a massive contributor to the aviation business. The question is, they're only slowly coming back at the moment. And because they've got to be planned a year or so in advance, you really can't afford to make mistakes of going too early and finding you only have 50 people for a 1,000 delegate consortium.
One way to recoup costs, though, perhaps charging more for landing slots, but that's not the perfect answer, is it?
It absolutely isn't. I mean, you can drive yourself out of the market, and Heathrow is a hub airport like Frankfurt, like Charles de Gaulle, like Amsterdam and so on. And if, for example, somebody were to suggest a solution of doubling the prices for passengers and for airlines at Heathrow, then no, it wouldn't empty overnight. But there would be a drop in the level of traffic because airlines would react and say, well, actually, I can get my passengers through other hubs that didn't do something like that. So it's not a completely controlled market that they can say what wants to be paid. They've certainly put in applications for higher landing fees looking forward to the future and the future investment. But you have to be careful. You don't price yourself out of the market.
So now that people are beginning to travel again, would it be fair for the industry to believe that the worst is now over?
Well, it's not going to be as bad as it was, with things like vaccination programs and protocols being married up across different jurisdictions. It's likely to get better without a shadow of a doubt. But the question is how quickly it can get back. And actually, the airlines and the airports have been suffering for 2 years now in terms of the downturn of traffic. So they've cut back costs dramatically, particularly at the airport level. And now they've got to rebuild those businesses.
OK, Peter Morris from Cirium, Ascend at Cirium, thanks very much indeed for joining us.
Thank you.